Hello everyone and welcome back. This week's nightmare of a build is the Boogie van from Pole Barn Garage. It's obviously a model that Dalton is passionate about, so let's get started. I'm not super interested in saving the blister here, so yeah, there it goes. I'm going to say this early. Doing your research really helps. While I was watching some of the videos that Dalton had done on the Boogie van, I noticed that the running boards that came on the van were in a junk pile outside of his garage. If you're wondering later on why I didn't include them, well, now you know. You can see that the pegs here are clearly giving me hell, but don't worry, I'll get them. Maybe. Alright, it's time for some more horsepower. It only went that fast because I softened it up with the Dremel. The beauty of Greenlight and M2 is that they're extremely detailed. I suppose that could be considered a shortcoming as well, especially for modifiers. Bumpers, grille, windows, sometimes even the taillights. It all becomes a bit monotonous when you're trying to get to a bare body. Another thought about all of these details is that they're kind of hard to keep track of unless you know exactly where you put them. Alrighty, I think we're about done. Let's get this thing into the goo. If this video jumps around a little bit, I apologize. I'm working on about 15 projects at once right now. Oh, I just realized another problem. I can't tell if the paint is actually off of the Zamac because it's the exact same color. That's okay. This paint is basically made of bed liner anyway, so it's going to take me 2 or 3 times of putting it through the goo to clear it all. Alrighty, I think this will about do it, so let's get it into polish. For those of you who have watched the real build on Pole Barn Garage, you'll know that there are a couple of windows right about here. I'm going to have to recreate those using other glass from other vehicles. I'll do that by making a crosshatch cut and then knocking out the extra chunks. This part takes a little bit, so why don't we move up to super speed? Like I said, I'll knock these chunks out with a pair of pliers. I'll then grind down the hard edges and start figuring out how to do the glass. These handy dandy pin files that Eric donated have made everything a world easier. Now, the cut for both windows isn't exactly perfect, but they're going to be covered by a window frame anyway. While I work out what to do about the glass, let's get this into paint primer. Yeah, I'd say that looks pretty good. Let's see how the decals are going to look before we decide that this blue is right. For those of you that are wondering, yes, that is exactly the right mural for the side of the van. I had to do these decals in 2 stages. The first stage is printed on clear so that the blue stripe looks like it's painted on. The second stage will be printed on white so that the mural has a good background. As you can tell, I wasn't really impressed with the first stage. It was getting a bit frustrating, so I decided to move on to something different. The Boogie van has all kinds of neat little accoutrements, including a sink right here and a bench along the back wall by the doors. Remember what I said about the video bouncing around? Yeah, let's try this again. Once the decals are on and dried, I'll cut out the excess. We got kind of lucky with the frame and the interior on this one. The wheels are virtually identical to the ones that are on the real van, and I've only got to remove one seat to make the interior make sense. Once I've done that, I'll put the bench in the back and create the sink using Tinkercad. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, here comes that Tinkercad session. I could be wrong, but I bet removing this seat will be a lot easier than removing the real one. Although I will admit this one's quite a bit more fragile. I don't think the real one would break. I'll just make sure that the frame will fit back on the van with the bench seat installed, and then we'll get her put in. Once everything is together, I'll give the interior and the frame a quick spritz of blue, and then we'll start putting this thing back together. I'm not super concerned with that. Foggy will take care of that when I ask her to do the detailing. Remember, folks, no running boards. I forgot to do a little bit of cleanup on the decals here, so that's what you're seeing now. All right, I think it's time to test out our new printer. This van has some ladders and gearing on the roof, so let's make that. While I didn't film it, I did create some frames for the new windows as well. See? 1/64 scale window frames. I'll get everything glued down, then pass it off to Foggy for the finer details, but what do you say we get you onto those glamour shots?